So we will call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order here at 10:01. All those who are able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just checking here, do we have any public for comment for items not appearing on today's agenda? All right, actually, we do have a public person here. We've announce your name and your municipality, please.
Hi, good morning. Vicki Fong, Borough of State College. First, I want to thank Elections Director Beth Leckman for her excellent professionalism and dedication. I've been an election worker since 2020 and an election board member in 2023, and I can attest that she has worked hard over the last years to improve the processes, not only for voters, but for election judges and officials, color coding, organizing, mail ballots, in-person voting, for the most efficient processes, protects voter rights, voter access, and really improves election security. And again, I know she's stepping down this month, and I want the chance to thank her and in public and the county commissioners for such an excellent hire in 2021. And going forward, given the national events of this week, I really urge the board, as they conduct their search, at this time, there's only 5 months to go to the elections. And given, and in Pennsylvania, all the various lawsuits, et cetera, efforts, counter efforts to affect voter registration and election, not only voting, but now certification of results. Perhaps, I'm not an expert, but we might consider an interim hire, particularly maybe a lawyer with expertise in election law and updates on the various lawsuits that seem to fly back and forth, if not by year, by month. So I think having attended the final certification meetings, I can see that it's important to be up to date, not only on the actual rulings, but the impact and the interpretations. Pennsylvania is a battleground state, unfortunately, not a status that I enjoy, but we are facing challenges, misinformation, and lawsuits, not only in our voter registration system, voting processes, and now certifications. Because, as I noted, if you block Center County votes, it wasn't just the 95 votes, but the 24,000 county votes, and then it blocks Pennsylvania 950,000 votes in the primary. So the stakes became very clear to me that defending democracy is at the county level, the local level, as well as the state and national level. So again, given that many election directors have retired due to either harassment, burnout, or threats, I know it's maybe challenging, I assume it'll be challenging, to hire an election director with enormous experience. So I just urge, but I could tell, having the election laws, understanding their impact, correcting erroneous information and interpretations of our current national and state laws, election codes, as well as the Pennsylvania and the U.S. Constitution. So, but again, I wanted to thank Beth for an outstanding job, and I want to thank Center County government for being such strong defenders of democracy. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Vicki. Yes, Beth and her staff have done a fabulous job over the last 3 years. We're really going to miss her, but the commissioners have been working hard along with the county administration and human resources in finding a replacement for that position. I think we're leaning towards something more permanent rather than something interim. So thank you very much for your comments. Any other public comment for items not appearing on today's agenda? No? All right. Any additions to the agenda by the commissioner? No? All right, we'll move on to the meeting minutes. If they're okay, we'll take a motion.
I will move to approve the minutes from the meeting held June 25th.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meetings from the minutes from the meeting held on June 25th. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Did you have a question, Gary? No? Okay. So moving on to our first item, resolutions. We have Faith, our Deputy County Human Services Administrator, with a very interesting grant application for home services.
Okay. So this item is on two parts of the agenda. Do you want me to review it now, or do you want me to review it in full at my next stop?
I lean toward
works
having
for
you
you.
just review the whole thing right now.
Perfect. So I'm in front of you today in order to apply for a new grant. It's Home ARP, ARP. It is a product of the pandemic, and what it appears to be is a combination grant of home dollars, which are more commonly found in our planning offices because they're more of the brick and mortar, funding, and ESG, which our department is familiar with having. So this opportunity comes to adult services at a pretty unique time where we're about to enter our second cycle of having ESG, homeless prevention, and emergency shelter. So we have the staffing and we have the infrastructure required to run the program, but also at a time when ERAP has now ended. And so it's a really nice opportunity to bring some additional dollars into the community. While a bit more narrow than ERAP, it's still a nice option to add to our portfolio. So the way we're looking at this is that for adult services, we'd be applying for a case management component, financial assistance, rental assistance, and of course have admin. Again, it very much parallels what we're already providing. It has a little more leeway, a little additional eligibility criteria, so it'll actually open up services just a bit more for folks in our community that are struggling to meet their needs. In addition to that, there's also a mental health component, which is incredibly unique. Again, I think that was a result of the time of pandemic when they were adding some additional money in. So we've worked with the mental health office to add an additional $10,000 into the grant, with the idea being that for folks that are coming through the PATH program, if they need to access mental health services that are either like not covered or they can't access them right away because maybe they don't have their medical assistance yet, we can cover it. So some of the highlights there that are really important for us is that this will be a 24-month grant, so we're applying in that nature. As I understand it from DCD, it's a grant that is available till 2030. So I'm curious to see if the money will last that long, but there is potential for the money to be maybe 1 or 2 contract cycles. So it is short term, but it's not as short term as I originally thought. Again, if it is, we already have the infrastructure, and so it's just adding some additional funds to our department. Again, adult services is in a really good spot with staff capacity to be able to take this on, because this money is some of the most challenging I've ever administered. It's very highly regulated. It requires a lot of entities and a lot of staff to get people into the service. Again, I already mentioned it's additional funding into Center County as ERAP, which was a very highly utilized program, comes into the community. What's more important to me, I think, and most special is that this is such an incredible opportunity to collaborate with another department where they're using their PATH dollars, which was so unique to Center County to even receive anyway, to get access to services to that very low income, homeless and at-risk population that we would have otherwise been able to do. So adult services already was working in HMIS, which was very unique for us. We have a housing program specialist that helps to run that and manage that system for us. That allowed mental health to apply successfully for PATH. And then because they have PATH, it allows us to now successfully apply for this. So Center County Adult Services and other human services have become really competitive now with some of this money that a couple years ago, pre-pandemic, we wouldn't have been able to. So that's really exciting for us. It also always offers an opportunity to allow some breathing room in our block grant. So while $10,000 isn't a lot, and it may only help 8 to 10 people in that time period, it's what I call a space saver in the budget. So if there are other parts of the program we're not spending as quickly, we've asked for that set of money, we've asked for that set of services, and we can always do a budget modification. So as you know, we're probably entering now year 15 of the Human Services Block Grant, not receiving additional funding. So this is just another creative way to try to bring some money in and have a little more flexibility. So it's a very unique grant opportunity. It's due at the end of July. We have a public hearing I believe it's July 18th or 19th, and I apologize, it's off the top of my head. So we'll take care of that. Today I'm in front of you to ask permission to apply and get everything we need to go to get it submitted. So we're excited, nervous but excited.
Thanks for the explanation. Faith.
Absolutely.
I believe nationally there's something in the ballpark of $5 billion available for this particular grant, so hopefully we've got a shot at something.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, I think it's 74 million.
All right.
Which again, that could run out in the first 2-year grant cycle. But again, it's also very narrow funding, so it could be around for a little bit longer than that.
Great. Commissioner
Yeah.
Concepcion, any questions?
No questions. I just like to thank you for being so on top of what's available and
Mm-hmm.
taking the initiative to go after some grant money that could help people who are really at risk in our community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
I just appreciate your effort. Hopefully it'll pan out and
Me
be
too.
successful.
Thank you. I appreciate your support too. We couldn't be this competitive without you, so thank you.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll be able to at least land something, and I think we'll talk about it again in a couple of minutes. Any questions from the press on this particular application?
Is the mental health component a increasing issue you're dealing with these days with the population you're dealing with?
I think like anything, it's about awareness, right? So it's more about us being able to have those words and being able to help people identify within themselves like what's going on and what they may need some assistance with. And so, like you might see someone come out of an institution or they've been chronically homeless for a long time, like they either don't have access to the service because they haven't been established in a residence or they haven't seen it as a priority or they're meeting their very basic survival skills. But even as we're trying to stabilize them, there can sometimes be that lag of service because they're trying to apply for medical assistance or they're trying to get other affairs in order. So this can hopefully give them an opportunity to get some things quicker for them while they're getting their housing situated. You're welcome.
Great. Thanks. Great question, Gary. Well, unless there's any more questions, I think we could take a motion to adopt the resolution.
I will move to adopt Resolution 8 of 2024.
I will second that.
We have a motion, a second, to adopt resolution number 8 of 2024. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Faith. We'll see you in a couple more minutes. Now under contracts, we have Norm from 911 for 2 items.
Good morning. Consider approval of a contract with Watkins Security to install 2 intercom stations, 1 gate intercom station, and 9 answering units to the 911 center. This was a future capital expense that had to be moved up this year to an unexpected equipment failure and to replace 10-year-old outdated equipment. That contract is worth $13,496.50. The second one is consider approval of an intergovernmental agreement with sharing talk groups between the Pennsylvania State Police and the 911 Center. This agreement is to promote officer safety and improve interoperabilities with 911 centers by establishing and monitoring designated PSP talk groups. This will provide situational awareness to the county 911 staff regarding PSP's involved accidents and advance notice of incidents that they may be involved in, and helping with our county span of control. There's no cost to the county. The contract runs from July 15th, 2024 to July 14th, 2044,
Oh, wow. 20-year contract.
20-year contract.
All right. Any questions, Commissioner Concepcion? Commissioner Dershowitz?
Good, thank you.
All right. Thanks for the good explanation, Norm. I think we could take a motion.
I'll move to add emergency communication items 1 and 2 to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
We have a motion, a second, to add the 2 items for emergency communications to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank
Norm.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Now we'll move over to capital projects, and I think John will start it off.
Sure. Good morning, Commissioners. Before you for consideration are some change orders for the Centercrest project. The first one is the fit out of the kitchen area, which will be leased. This was not a part of the overall scope of the project because that determination as to how we were going to utilize that space was not finalized until after the project was awarded. So this is the basically the fit out of the kitchen for a particular tenant that we are negotiating with. and that cost is $971,948.77. The second part of this is a conversion of what was going to be a gallery space, and it will now be converted into an exercise area, gym space for employees as part of our wellness initiatives that we're implementing for employees. That is $35,894.20. And then the final part, Part C, are other minor changes that include things such as the retention of a mop sink-in area for cleaning purposes, which would include running some new supply lines, relocation of an IT server room
yes.
for a better placement in the basement, and then some additional wall modifications. As you know, when you open up an old building, when I say open up, basically, once you start demoing the interior walls, that's when you know what you're actually dealing with. So there were no major surprises, but there were some minor things that needed to be accommodated for. So before you, we are seeking the approval of the change orders.
Great, thanks, John. For a little more context, the majority of the kitchen costs are heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, and electrical items that would have needed to be done anyway. We're just customizing them for the tenant who's going to be eventually moving in.
Yes. Yeah, they'll be purchasing their own equipment.
Yeah. Great. Commissioner Concepcion, questions or comments?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
All good.
All right.
I will move to approve the change orders for the Center Crest renovation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the change orders for the Center Crest renovation. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay, motion carries. And then, Jonathan is here for two more items.
Just one thing on Center
Yeah.
Crest, it might be helpful going forward now that we're starting to get change orders in to just have a running list of those for capital meetings.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
All right, we'll present at
Just-
Capitol.
Right, just to
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
a list.
Sure.
That we, keep
All right.
adding to as we go along.
Absolutely.
All right, back to Jonathan.
Morning. I have for your consideration approving a contract with Eager Excavating and Concrete LLC to replace 120 linear feet of concrete sidewalk in front of the Willowbank building. The borough came through, did their inspection, and noted it all as failed and needing replacement.
Kind of knew that was going to happen eventually. Yeah. All right, and you can cover the third item as well.
Yes, so for your consideration is the design proposal with Hoffman Leakey Architecture. That would be for the second floor sheriff's office design, adding locker rooms for the men and women, and redesigning the floor, just bringing the space up, updating everything.
Sort of converting that from the old prison to an actual functional sheriff's office.
Correct.
All right. Questions, Commissioner Concepcion?
No, sounds good.
Steve?
Good, thank you.
All right.
I'll move to add capital project items 2 and 3 to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to add items 2 and 3 for capital projects to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks,
Thank you.
Jonathan.
Thank you.
Now back to John with a grant from the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yes, before you for consideration is a grant agreement with 3 Dots Downtown to provide a grant in the amount of $5,000, which is a matching grant in their application to the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. The term of the agreement is July 2nd, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. Activities include planning and implementation of the Multicultural Rural Arts District and Residency Program, which includes regional arts district activities and an artist residency program.
Thanks, John. Yeah, that's a great space downtown. Eric and her staff are doing a wonderful job working with the college students, young professionals, and a number of cities our size and larger do have arts districts, which are usually fun, vibrant, and attract tourism and improve the local quality of life. I'll hand it over to Amber for additional comments.
Yeah, no, 3 Dots has done a good job bringing that whole corner of the State College turning into kind of an interesting arts district, and they have some great ideas, and they've been doing a lot to support through grant money that they'll be able to pass on to other local artists. So I'm glad to be able to do this.
Steve, any questions or comments?
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
And it's nice, it helps them pull down another Pennsylvania grant.
Yes.
I'll move to approve the grant agreement with Three Dots Downtown.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the grant agreement with Three Dots Downtown. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. Now we have Kochi from Planning with a transportation update.
Yes, we're asking for the commissioners to consider the approval of the final completion report for the 2018 Center County Bridge Rehabilitation Bundle, which will acknowledge completion of the T505 Main Street Orviston Bridge, the T942 Lower Colville Road Bridge in Spring Township, and the T526 Fox Gap Road Bridge in Miles Township. The work has been performed under the contract and has been inspected and declared completed as of May 24th, 2024. This is the first of the bridge bundles to actually be completed, so we give the commissioners kudos for stepping up for these municipalities and rehabbing these bridges and making this project happen. So we're just asking you to approve the final completion report.
That's wonderful, Kochi. We had tried to promise Dave Lamison that we'd have that complete in time for your Orviston Festival. What are the dates on that again, Dave?
12th and 13th of July.
All right, so 12th,
Quick.
yeah, 12th and 13th of July, Orviston Festival, one of the most fun, very, very small village festivals in Center County, and fabulous fireworks, too. You're welcome. Commissioner Concepcion, comments or questions?
Now, just glad to have this project done, and these are bridges, some of these bridges really are like the only way to
Yeah.
get from point A to point B where they are located.
Right, the Lower Colville Bridge was actually closed for about 5 years before we got in and were able to rehab it, so it's been a huge increase or impact for the community there.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a busy secondary road. Commissioner Dershowitz, any comments
No,
or
just
questions?
thanks for the follow-through and making sure these projects came to completion. I think it's wonderful.
Okay.
We're getting it
Yeah.
done. So-
You're welcome.
And also getting that done in time for the election. That's one of the 2 county election houses there in
Yes.
Colville,
Yes.
right by the bridge. I remember the bridge construction was sort of blocking it the last couple elections a little bit. You can still get to it, but.
Right, well, the facility was actually very, very small. It almost looks kind of not much bigger than a storage shed.
Yeah.
And with the bridge being right there and the construction equipment, it made it pretty tight. So this
Yeah.
year, this election, they should be able to get right in there with no problem.
Plenty of
Right.
parking. Great. Well, unless there's any questions, I think we could take a motion.
And then I'm happy to approve the final completion report for the 2018 Center County Bridge Bundle.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the final completion report for the 2018 Center County Bridge Rehabilitation Bundle. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Kochi, and thanks, Dave. Moving back to Human Services, we'll bring Faith back up for a couple of grant updates.
Okay. So for the first item is same-day approval request. It's the second revision to our fiscal year 22-23 Human Services Block Grant Income and Expenses Report, or I&E report. The total amount of money did not change, and the services didn't change. There was just a client number error. So for the state to approve it, we had to make that quick change, and then we have to get the attestation and certification re-signed. The second item is what I had already talked about with Home ARP. It's the Supportive Services Grant through the Department of Community and Economic Development, and this again will be for homeless prevention and mental health services. And the mental health services are affiliated with those that are experiencing homelessness or at risk. The anticipated or requested grant total is $232,575. And again, we have it set for a 2-year period, or 24 months.
Great. Thanks, Faith. And
You're
I do want to point out that the block grant has not increased in 14 years. And that's our main funding source for services like mental health services. So
Yep.
definitely, as the state legislature is considering the budget, it is one of the highest priorities for the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania to finally receive an increase in funding for the mental health portion of the block grant. Thanks. Commissioner Concepcion, any questions? Commissioner Dershowitz?
Good.
All right, looks like since Faith sort of covered both of them, maybe we'll just have a motion to cover. Should we,
Can I just
John,
say-
do we need a
One
double
is an,
motion or
one is an approval and one is
All right,
a,
separate.
yeah,
Do
on
one
the
at a
consent
time.
agenda, yeah.
All right,
Then first, I'll move to approve revision 2 for the Human Services Block Grant.
I will second that.
we have a motion and a second to approve revision number 2 for the Human Services Block Grant. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And now we'll take the next motion.
I'll move to add submission of the Home ARP Supportive Services Grant to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
We have a motion, a second, to add the submission of the Home ARP Supportive Services Grant to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Faith.
you.
Thank you.
All right, and now we have Dave from Transportation with some Penn State vehicle purchases.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I come and ask for consideration of approval of the in-kind purchase of 5 vehicles from Penn State University using in-kind funds. And the 5 vehicles will be placed in the business fleet to replace vehicles that have met their useful life. And we're also going to add a second vehicle to our Adult Services Department due to their high demand of usage of vehicles. So it's a great opportunity as usual, and the total for the 5 vehicles, inclusive of the 10% fee, is $84,012.50 in-kind funds.
Great, thank you, Dave. Anything else you want to add on the Orviston Festival? Now
Well,
that
I
we're on
just
camera?
appreciate the opportunity to do that. We're excited, we're preparing, we're cleaning up and getting everything ready to go. We just hope and pray that the weather always cooperates, which we've had great success. For some reason, there's people up there that help us with that, I think, that have passed on. But it's a great time, as you all know, and I encourage people to come out and enjoy it. I know Koshi and her family participates when they're able, and I see them there quite a bit. But yeah, we're excited. It's a good time coming up next weekend. Always the second Saturday in July.
And what's
So-
the motto of Orviston that involves transportation planning?
Well, it's my hometown, obviously.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up, and it was a brickyard town back in the early days. It was founded in 1904, so it's near and dear to my heart, obviously. And I still have family there that live there, and it was a great place to grow up. You get up, you went to the ball field, and then you jumped in the creek and cooled off and had lunch and went back to the ball field, and sometimes jumped in the creek twice, during the day in the summer, and went fishing. Whatever you wanted to do, you could do, and it was, I can't say enough good about it. But
And it's
yeah.
easy to find because it's where the road ends.
It is, where you ride till the road ends and you're in Orviston. And I can tell you, come Saturday night next week, if you're not in town by 7 o'clock, you may have to walk a ways. It fills right up, and people come from everywhere. I mean, I have friends that come from far away annually, and a lot of people, it's their homecoming, and that's sort of what they refer to it as. But again, I know that I'm trying to find data that tells me how long it has been rekindled. I know that it's over 30 years, but I just haven't found that piece of information to say that they started it back up. In my early years as a child, they had a street festival, and then they stopped it for probably 10 or 15 years maybe. But so I'm getting old, so it's but I know that they rekindled it and at least 30 years ago, and maybe longer. But it's just a great opportunity, great time. We love it.
And there's a lot of yellow Orviston brick used as highlights.
Oh,
in,
yes. Oh,
historic
yes.
buildings in Bellefonte.
Yes, and that's the only place you're going to get a chance to buy a brick that floats down the creek, and you could win a few dollars. They're not really bricks, but they're
Yeah.
painted like bricks, and that's one of our highlights. But thank you, I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. All right, I think we can take a motion then.
I'll move to approve the purchase of 5 vehicles from Penn State University.
I will second that.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor of approving the 5 vehicles from Penn State University do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank
Great.
you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Well, we have a super short consent agenda. I think we could just take a motion.
Okay, I'll move to approve this week's consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve this week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to letters of support. I believe Kochi has one for us.
Yes, I'm here on behalf of Worth Township. They're submitting a DCED multimodal grant application to upgrade 1.93 section mile of East Mountain Road, which is T300. It's located in the eastern portion of Worth Township, and the Worth Township supervisors are requesting a support letter from the county commissioners. Just a little bit of background on the project in Worth Township itself. Worth Township is one of your more rural communities. It has approximately 800 residents, and they have about 17.5 miles of municipal-owned roadway. Most of it is dirt and gravel. So the proposed project begins at the Houston Township line and extends 1.93 miles along East Mountain Road. This portion of East Mountain Road is currently comprised of gravel and a sparse section of tar and chip materials. Worth Township has identified this section as an immediate priority for improvement and upgrade due to the overall poor roadway condition and areas of reoccurring potholes and failing shoulders. Additionally, the roadway experiences poor drainage with several failing pipes that need to be replaced. The funding, if obtained, would go to replace and install 200 feet of drainage pipe, widen and pave the 1.93 miles of the eastern section of East Mountain Road, restore the shoulders to improve drainage, and driveway adjustments as needed. The estimated cost of this project is $836,880. East Mountain Road is a connector to the DCNR Road, which transports traffic to the Black Machine State Park. It also supports local businesses such as a bed and breakfast, many farmers, and logging companies, because this is a mountainous area. East Mountain Road has also seen an increase in cyclists using the road due to the alluring scenic beauty and the proximity to other major traffic highways. So it does come out onto 322, which heads up to Phillipsburg area. Worth Township is requesting a letter of support from the county commissioners in support of their DCED multimodal grant application for East Mountain Road rehabilitation.
Great, thanks for the background and explanation, Coachy. Commissioner Concepcion, any questions?
No, thanks for explanation.
No? Commissioner Dershowitz?
Hope they get it done.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the letter of support for Worth Township.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the letter of support for Worth Township. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Great. Thank you,
Thank
Coachy. All right, now we'll move on to a slightly smaller than average check run. Commissioner Concepcion.
The check I'd like to recognize this week in our check run is to the ARC of Center County. They provide intellectual disability services to disabled folks who reside in Center County. And with that, I'd like to move to approve the check run dated June 28th, 2024.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the check run dated June 28th. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. John, do we have an administrator's report this week?
Nothing to report at this time.
All right, and we'll move on to reports and announcements. Center County government offices will be closed on Thursday, July 4th, in observance of Independence Day. Do we have any executive sessions to report or hold?
No executive sessions to report or hold.
Oh, and I'll loop back to voters registration.
Okay.
That's why I
Yep.
paused.
Yeah.
So today on our voter registration report, we have 101,567 registered voters in Center County. That is up 68 from last week. Of those, we have 42,414 Democratic voters, 147 Green voters, 598 Libertarian voters, 14,183 with no affiliation, and 41,209 registered Republican voters. All of the other smaller counties comprise 3,016 registered voters. Our party of the week this week is the Jedi Party, and our precinct of the week is Precinct 61 in Marion Township. They have 632 total registered voters, and they had a voter turnout of 27.5% in the most recent election in April. Precinct 61, Marion Township, votes at the Marion Township Building at 4337 Jacksonville Road, and we're thankful to Marion Township for the use of that space for voting. So that's the voter report.
Very well selected. Thank Marion Township for being one of the host townships for the Ironman competition as well. Yes. Great. John, do we have any executive sessions to report or hold? No? Okay. Moving on to our public meeting schedule, commissioners have a work session 11 today. On Tuesday, July 9th, we have a Board of Commissioners meeting at 10 a.m. And on Thursday, July 11th, we have a combined Salary Board and Board of Commissioners meeting at 10 a.m. Do we have any questions from the press?
Is The county's hope or intention to have a new election director in place by November?
That is definitely our intention, Gary, yes, good question.
Can you
Probably a
comment
lot
on-
sooner than that, though.
All right, Vicki alluded to the fact that the number of folks in that position statewide have resigned, and
Yes.
are you having difficulties getting applicants? Could you make any comment on that?
We have a number of applicants. Thankfully, we have a couple of applicants who actually have some prior experience, so we're very pleased to see that.
The renovation of the sheriff's office, the sheriff isn't moving, it's the renovation of his current
It's
location.
ongoing renovation of his current building. Yes, it's, we've been attacking it in stages, and something was recently brought to our attention where we're like, yes, we need to upgrade the locker rooms for the deputies, so we're getting on that right away, and we thank Jonathan and the sheriff for doing the extra work to get that kicked off.
Could you disclose who may be using the kitchen at Centercrest?
I don't know if we're able to do that yet, John, are we?
We don't, it's not confirmed yet, but we are working with somebody, and it's somebody that the county has worked with in the past.
It's not McDonald's, Gary.
Yes. It's not McDonald's, it's not Krispy Kreme, it's not Arby's.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not Arby's,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions, Tim?
Yeah, for the home ARP application, she said it would be maybe a little bit tough to get. So in the event that that grant is not approved, how do you propose to help the current homeless?
Well,
homeless
we're
population?
hoping the state legislature will increase the county block grant. But if they don't, obviously, we have very skilled and creative administrators in that area, and they'll move the funds around in whatever fashion we need, depending on demand. But yeah, after 14 years of no increases, it's getting harder and harder to move the money around. Good question. Anything else?
And for the change orders, does that affect the timeline of the renovation in any way?
No, all change orders to date have not affected the ultimate move-in date of July of 2025.
Knock on wood. Almost every construction project I know of right now is running behind.
Right.
So happy to hear we're running roughly on schedule. Great. Well, thanks a lot. Unless there's anything else, I think we could take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the Commissioners' meeting at 10:38. All those in favor do so by saying aye. 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 Pose nay. Motion carries. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back.